Thanks for joining us on this new compact version of Does It Resonate With You, where we take a whole show from each week and cut it into smaller and more digestible chunks so that you can listen on the go or listen to them all in a row, whatever works for you. We really want you to find your own truth while we discover and discuss ours. And while we're at it, could we encourage you to reach down and hit that subscribe button? Thanks so much. We'll see you on the other side. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Does It Resonate With You? So we're playing with our new format a little bit. We decided that when we have a guest, and you can see that we have a guest today, that we're going to do 2 segments with the guest, but it'll be all in one episode. And then we're still going to have a separate episode of Tarot Time, which it seems that y'all like very much because we've seen that it got a lot of views really quickly. Right? Amazing. Right. So before we do anything else, if you could just reach down and hit that subscribe and that like button. We're getting really close to 100 subscribers, and we'd really love it if we could get there soon. So that would be a really great help for us. We'd really appreciate it. So without further ado, hi, John. How are you?
Hi, Angie.
And let's get started. We have Norah here. She actually is the owner of Inanna MBS. And it's she makes all these amazing witchy things.
Cool.
Anyway. We're going to start talking today about Orgone. So what do you think, John?
Yeah, let's hand it over to Norah right away. I'm curious. Tell us a litit bit about the origin of Orgone.
Okay. Well, hi everybody. Okay, so thank you. Orgone energy is essentially, we're going to start with like the origins. It's your prana, it's your chi, it's along those lines of that, but it's the universal energy, right? And so for a long time, people have been trying to harness it or trying to figure it out, but it wasn't until it really starts to come about in like the early 1900s, where a man named Wilhelm Reich, I have the hardest time saying that, so sorry. He was a psychoanalyst, and he did a lot of study in the energy fields, and he created a cloud buster, which was like a bunch of tubes that it was organic and inorganic material, which is the base of Orgone energy, in creating the sculptures, but I'll get to that in a second. He used organic and inorganic material, so metallic pipes and wood, to try and pull down the energy in the universe. And he called it a cloud buster to pull down the energy. What it did actually, and this is kind of why it came about as a cloud buster, is it took, all of our energy that we put out there, the cellular energy, the EMFs, all of these man-made energy that gets put out into the auric fields, it has been shown to kind of reduce the floof of clouds, for lack of a more scientific term. And so the cloud buster, he saw that the clouds were not as poofy, they were not as full of water, liquid, that kind of stuff. My words aren't working for me right now. It wasn't as full as he was used to them. Like he wasn't, they had said something about, you normally see creatures in the clouds and stuff like that. He noticed that they weren't as shaped as they usually were. So the cloud busters actually helped to pull and create the energy, or the liquid, to make them fluffier. Okay. With Orgone energy, it takes that stagnant energy and it is known to make the clouds fluffier, because it creates I cannot get the word for it for me right now.
So I'm going to, because this is what I do. It is anti-entropic energy. It creates order out of chaos.
Yes.
John's going to love that. I can just tell.
Yes. The wheels are turning over here.
It was, and I'm just going to go ahead and read it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I don't know where it went. Originally proposed in the 1930s by Wilhelm Reich and developed by Reich's student Charles Kelly after his death, Reich's death in 1957. Orgone was conceived as the anti-entropic principle of the universe, a creative substratum in all of nature comparable to Mesmer's animal magnetism, to the odic force, and then that's as far as I can read because it's only a blurb. So it's literally about taking the energy of chaos and creating order. That's what I see.
What the
which is a
Orgone
really simple way to put it,
do.
but it makes a lot of sense when I consider my interactions with it.
Right. And so, I'll just jump right there to the pieces because he created a way to pull it all together and harness it, essentially. The first thing that he created were these, they were called accumulators, and they were actually rooms that you sit in. They were wooden boxes, but they had steel or aluminum. It was a metallic, either one, whichever he could use, in the insides, but it would pull down the deadly Orgone energy and the positive Orgone energy. So so they actually essentially started off to be a little bit dangerous because he had to figure out a way to siphon out the deadly Orgone energy and only harness the positive Orgone energy. So that's when he started to put them into the epoxy and into the resin, but it was only metals and epoxy. It wasn't, and wood. It was the organic and inorganic. The epoxy was considered the organic. Okay. It wasn't until about 1999, where Carol, I can never remember her last name, Croft. Carol Croft and her husband Don Croft started making the Orgone generators using Wilhelm Reich's process of the organic and inorganic materials. But Carol, she has abilities, so she was smart enough to say, hey, you need to put a crystal in there. And she was the one who originally said, because her theories behind it was, we have all this energy going, but how do we focus? It needs a brain. It needs a crystal in there so it knows which is the deadly Orgone energy and which is the positive Orgone energy, which one to siphon. So obviously, using crystals, we know certain crystals will set the intentions in certain ways. But essentially, it started with the quartz, just the quartz, because as you know, we use quartz in everything. It's in your screen that you're looking at right now, right? And the way they create the energy in the quartz is the pressurized. So the epoxy encasing the quartz inside is creating that pressurized process to create the energy out of the points of the crystals inside, because epoxy expands.
That makes sense.
Cool.
So that was a lot of information. So if there's any questions so far.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure there's questions.
I have a question. So there's some people that can see auras, right? And how does the Orgone connect with or relate to seeing someone's aura?
Okay, so when somebody's aura, that's actually a really good question. When somebody's aura is containing EMFs, so this is what the Orgone energy is battling, right? So when our auric field has the EMFs, the negative, it's bubbly. It's like, people have said it's blue bubbles, it's green bubbles, but it's more like the cool color side of the spectrum, right? But it's bubbly. And that's when you know that they are in need of some Orgone energy, because they are taking in too many EMFs, too much. So the Orgone energy just will smooth out the auric field.
And is this something that you can wear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's jewelry or a talisman or something like that, correct?
Absolutely. There's a lot of different things. So I can show you a couple of my pieces.
I would love to see.
So this one, let's see if we can see it. This is actually a pendulum, but I've had people take the chain and wear it as a necklace as well.
Sweet.
But this is an amethyst Orgone pendulum, and you can see the copper BBs inside there and the amethyst on top. It's the layering of the organic and inorganic materials that creates the Orgone process. I make earrings out of this end too. So having it on you is always a really good thing. I also do, maybe I don't know if this can be shown, but we'll try it. These go on the back of your phones. This is a 2-sided tape.
Sure.
So it goes on so it's essentially, one of the pop things you put on the back of your phone.
Yeah.
And this really helps to diffuse the EMFs that your cellular device is emitting into you. I did a really fun experiment with these. And to the where like my kids have to have them on their phones now. It's a necessity. I had gotten a new phone, and you have to get a new case. You have to get all of that kind of stuff. So my piece was not on my new phone. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to put it on. I'm going to leave it off for about a week. I left it off and I started getting headaches, not migraines. I'm not saying anything like that. Pinpricks, just enough for me to notice that something was going on. So after a week, I put it back on my phone case. Obviously, my new phone case had arrived, so I was able to put it on there. But and immediately the pinpricks were gone. And it's one of those things that for me to feel it, I'm going to use it. And
Right.
so, like I said, I make them so that people can put them on the back of their phones. You can put them on. I have one under my internet router because a lot of EMFs coming out of there. And it doesn't interact with the abilities of the devices either.
That's a really smart thing to put under your router or around your computer, as opposed to some people put things like clear quartz, which is the dumbest thing to put around your computer.
Right.
Look at John. Do you have a piece of clear quartz next to your computer? Clear quartz is an amplifier, right? Like it's an amplifier. You don't really want.
Yeah, but that's the piece of quartz I carry all the time. So
yeah, right.
Okay.
So I mean, it is what it is. I dumbest. You know me. I'm a bull in the china shop. I say what comes to my mind. So, but the point is, you don't want to surround your computer with clear quartz, thinking that you're going to be diminishing the the frequencies that are being emitted, because that is not what is going to happen. They are going to be amplified. Any silica-based crystal, lepidolite, quartz is going to amplify. So it's pretty smart to put a piece of Orgone, by your router. The truth is, I used to put, but that was before I had my own energy under control. I used to put black tourmaline around my serger and my sewing machine because the thread was always breaking and stuff was always happening. But then as soon as I figured out how to balance my own energy and get my own energy under control, that stopped happening. I stopped knocking out the street lights and, that stuff too. So that's really smart though. I mean, because I could see that being great for the router, for the DVR, for, for a lot of things.
Yeah.
So here's a question. So you have that piece on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
How big of a piece do you need in your home, or how many, to sort of mitigate the energy signatures that are in your house?
All of the chaos.
I mean, it's really interesting that was what I gleaned, the idea of getting order from chaos, right? Like
more the merrier.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, is it like one
honestly,
per device or one for each room?
I would say, depending on what is in the room. Okay, so you're in your kitchen, you have your microwave. You absolutely need to have something by that microwave. I have kids. We use it. These are like my bigger charging plates. And these I put like a little foam. These are my personal ones. So I have my animal fur and everything all over them. They're great. But I have one of these by my router. I have one of these under my microwave, under my air fryer. Anything that uses some sort of electricity to create something, right? like the air fryer, it uses extra electric to create the heat and flow the air and everything like that. So that is emitting some form of EMFs. So you always want, and then microwaves, you know, it's in the name. So you always want to have, for me personally, and obviously, yes, I make them. So they are all over my house. They are inside of my house, outside of my house. They are in my children's cars, my husband's cars, like they're everywhere. But, you know, ideally, I would say make sure you have it in the room where your router is, an office if you have one, because you have your computers, you have all of that, and wherever there's TVs. Those would be the top places, but let's be real, nowadays most people have a TV in every single room. It's just the number one thing you want to do is you want to break up the stream of the EMFs flowing, because when you break it up, it breaks it down.
I got a question
Makes
about your
sense.
process. Are those
Okay.
made from epoxy? Like that?
Yes.
Well, then we do have something in common. My son
But
has a
now
little
John's
dual-
all over it, right?
Well, I mean, I was kind of curious when you held it up and like, that looks like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like something we
I
do.
think it would be really cool to see like what the actual components are. And
So I don't know. Again, this is my personal pyramid, so it's dusty, but as you can see, like I have copper flakes down here on the bottom, and I've done maybe, like, this has been through a lot. Okay. There's a lot of energy. I have the chakras swirling up to the top with the copper on the sides, and then I have a huge rose quartz heart in the center.
So what she's saying is she's got crystals that represent each chakra swirling up.
Each chakra, yes.
That's cool.
So I have, you know, all the way up to the pink heart chakra, so the high heart. But it's the layering process.
Yeah.
So let's start with just the copper itself for a second. Those copper shavings are like a byproduct of machining. I have a box of them because of somebody I know that works in a machine shop that you know that tools copper, and even the spirals that were in the corners. I have those as well because they're
that would be so much easier because I make all mine by hand.
oh,
Yeah,
wow.
right. So, I mean, whether or not I actually ever do anything with it, but so the idea is copper no matter where it comes from, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
copper.
Copper is copper, and I use, like you saw in this one, you'll appreciate, Angie. You asked for me to make moonstone ones. Here you go.
There you go.
This is an unfinished pendulum. This could be a necklace or a pendulum. This will be a pendulum, but the copper BBs, I use those. I use the ones that are coated in silver. As long as it's got steel or copper inside, it's an energy conduit. The metals are the inorganic matter in the process of the orgonite. So when you layer, because you had asked about the process, right, John?
Yep.
So when you layer them, as I kind of showed in this one, we have the layer of copper and the layer of citrine over it. Now, inside of my colors, I have other stuff too. I have more citrine and I have more copper, but it's the layering process that really transmutes that EMF energy.
Cool.
And then it pulls in, like, as I said, the copper or the steel, they're energy conduits. So it pulls in that energy that's surrounding it, and it takes it in and it cleanses it because you have the crystals inside. So the original orgone generators without the crystals, they were pulling the energy in, but what was happening to it? Where was it going? How was it being spread back out if it didn't have a crystal, if it didn't have a brain in there? Okay. So now when Carol had said, put a crystal in there, it needs a brain. You truly can feel, I feel the ones, like if I, for whatever reason, have a moment that I forget to put a crystal in it, happens. I catch them, they don't go out the door, but it happens. I can feel the difference in the actual piece, but I'm also
Absolutely.
sensitive to the energy, you know, but you can feel the difference. So I think Carol was genius for saying, put that crystal in there because it needs the brain. It needs something to tell that energy where to go and what to do. And also
that
when
makes a lot of sense.
yeah, it does, right? It really does. And when you add intention
So here,
to it.
let's lead to it. Let's lead to another question.
Okay.
I was at an expo type thing, and there was a table filled with Orgone, using that trademark term that we're not going to use, but I'm sure the viewers can look it up and figure it out. And I was like, what is this? Now, I feel energy. Like everybody knows I feel energy, right? And I'm like,
big time.
what is this? Like it feels like nothing. Like literally felt like nothing. And I'm like, well, it's got to be doing it. They've got to be doing it. And I'm not hugely attached to you can do something wrong, right? Like I'm not really like people, oh, well, how do I lay out my altar? Am I laying it out the right way? Can I damage something?
You can't do it wrong.
You can't do that wrong. You know what I mean? Like, how do I read cards? You can't do it wrong. You shuffle however you shuffle. You can't do it wrong. I mean, you can do it wrong, but you know what I mean by that. You can't do it wrong. So when I felt it, in your mind, with your experience with how much you have created, would that be intention, materials, a combination? Or wait, I got another one. Would it be, because I just happen to know, I could recognize it when I see it, snake oil, that this person wasn't really creating it with the intention of helping humanity, but really just to line their pocket. Does that make sense to you?
It absolutely does. And I would almost say all of the above.
Say all of the above. That's good.
There's I mean, there's many different things. It could absolutely be they weren't using crystals or they weren't using genuine crystals. Okay. They were getting their crystals from a big box store, whatever. They were not sourcing actual stones. And they were plastic or whatever, right? Or the lack of actual intent, or knowledge. You have to understand the process to be able to bring it to fruition, right? You have to understand. You don't have to go through the history. I just like to know the background of everything, but you have to understand why the metal's doing what it's doing, why the stones are doing what they're doing, and how you as the creator can intensify everything. Okay.
It's now, like a tax return. You need to know what it's supposed to look like in order to get it done correctly.
Right.
If you don't know what if you don't know what the result is supposed to be, how are you going to do it correctly?
Right.
Right. And that is, I mean, this is a case. So that makes a lot of sense. So what is the most crucial piece of a piece? I mean, does it have to be resin? Could it be set in something else? I don't know what else. What else would it be, John?
It has to be epoxy resin. For the simple fact that it's considered an inorganic material. And as we do the layering, it's the organic and inorganic. But also above that, epoxy expands. And when stones are pressurized, it's a term, I'm going to read this term and hopefully I'm going to say it somewhat correctly. It's piezoelectric effect. Okay.
Yeah.
So
piezoelectric. That's right.
Thank you.
Piezo.
Thank you. Piezo. Thank you. Piezoelectric.
Unless yours hibiscus moon and then it's piezoelectric. So nobody can say it right. Okay.
Whatever that effect
is,
it's the press. Thank you. It's the pressurization of the stones that creates the electricity, the energy. Okay. So like I said, these screens that you're watching us all on are crystal screens, and they've been pressurized to create the electricity to show you our faces.
Cool. So do you make various different sizes and shapes? And you showed us a couple of them, the pyramid and also the pendulum shape. Do you have dozens of different shapes or just a few different shapes?
Wait till you hear what else she has made. Wait till you hear. I know there is something that John's going to appreciate. He's going to go, oh, cool. So go through your list. Think about conversations you and I have had and things that I said you should make. Just think about it and then mention them. And John's going to go, oh, really? Cool.
Right.
Are you
Sign me up.
talking the runes?
Guarantee.
Runes.
Are you
Nice.
talking the
Yes.
runes?
There we go.
Yes,
Yes.
that's what I'm talking about.
I have a beautiful set of runes. I don't have it up on my Etsy shop because it is kind of one of those pieces that you have to have your hands on to understand how incredible they are. Yeah, Angie actually even gave me a book to really, really get to know, because like I said, I love to know the background and everything, because why am I creating it if I don't know what it is?
Oh, is that what happened to my other copy of that book?
Yes, I have it. Guilty.
Wow. Mystery revealed.
It's okay because I still have one.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, I'm gonna have to remember to bring that to you next time I see you. But so I have the runes. I have like I showed you my phone. I call it a phone guardian because I don't want to use that other term. And for me, it's guarding the cells. So I have the phone guardians, which I have a lot of different stuff. You guys saw the leaf in there. I do fairies, dragons, really anything mythical. I even do, the tree of life inside of there. I make all of these circles by myself, by hand. But I do pyramids. I have the smaller pyramids, and then I have like my medium pyramid. I do have a mold for like a big giant pyramid, but I have yet to use it. Just because
a lot of epoxy for that.
It's a lot of epoxy, and I have something very definite in my mind that I'm going to make with it. So, until I can get all the pieces together, I'm not going to put it together yet, unless somebody has an order for it. But then I do the pendulums.
What you need to do with one of those large pyramids is you need to put one of the medium pyramids inside of it.
Oh, that would be really cool. This is why I like talking to you about this stuff. She gives me so many brilliant ideas.
As soon as you said it, I saw it. Like, wow, yeah.
That would be really cool.
We'll talk about it off the show. Yeah, but I mean, we can talk a little more about it now.
I want to be in on that talk because we do epoxy over here too. My son does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my son makes necklaces, so.
Oh, I would love to walk you guys through the process and everything.
Yeah. Well, I know the epoxy process. I'm more curious about your
the Orgone.
Yeah, the Orgone. Yes.
The Orgone process she's talking about. Yep. So John, just get on Amazon and start ordering molds.
Right. Well, so on that note, the molds. Did you buy molds for the runes, or did you make them for the runes?
So I actually bought. They're little. I have them put away in my event bin. They're about the size of a little bigger than a dime and about a 1/4 inch thick, because it's got to be a little thicker so I can do the layering process. Yep. And I think they were candy molds.
Cool.
I don't know. Yeah, I've done cake molds. I've done candy molds. I'm doing a Doctor Who convention. And so I got a TARDIS mold that I'm going to do some Orgonite pieces with. I'm also going to do like my big disc.
Oh, man. No, I have to have a TARDIS.
Okay.
I have to have a TARDIS. Right. Which we'll take this minute right now. You can give to me at Witch's Day Out. So and then we'll go back to the Orgone and the process and everything. But I want to make sure that we fit this in. If you are local to us here, y'all know where I am, so you know where Norah is. Witch's Day Out will be in McHenry, right? Like it's a new event space that you're trying out. But this is how I met Norah originally. Was I did an event that she held. And she does amazing expos and events. And one of my favorites was Witch's Day Out. And so I will be there doing readings. It's on October 29th, which is a
Sunday
in McHenry. It's kind of an all-day thing. We will put a link. We'll put a link to it, 10 to 4. We'll put a link to it in the comments of this show. And then you can check her out on Facebook, Inanna MBS, right?
Yes.
Is that your Facebook page?
Just what I have written down here. That's my Facebook, my TikTok, my Instagram. everything, even on Etsy. It's Inanna MBS.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it because it's
Yeah.
less confusing.
Makes
right?
things a lot
That,
easier.
well, I mean, it made a lot of sense to me when I did that. Angie's the XUH everywhere. My website,
Mhm.
my Facebook page, my Instagram, all of it. That's all the same thing. Well,
Yeah.
the ZXUH method. But anyway, so I wanted to make sure that we got that in. So now you can make sure that the TARDIS is at the event so that
you can
if
buy
I
it.
don't see you until then, it will be available to me, which means
We'll talk and we'll
that-
get to like a very custom one. I want to say on that note, I love to do custom orders. I channel all of my pieces. So there's some
I
that I
do
really
have a
do really
channeled
fun.
piece.
Yeah, you do.
Actually, I have two because the person you channeled the other one for left it behind. So,
Oh.
but yes, I do have. Yeah, isn't that interesting? I have
Yeah.
a channel. I do have a channeled piece, and it is different than when you just get something off the rack.
Mhm.
So, she
It's
asks
more
you kind
personal
of
intentions.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah, you can put a lot more intention
and
into
I
it.
want to make sure that we, because we've got about 15 minutes left. I want to make sure that we get to that part of it, the intention, because in my
Mhm.
world, in John's world, in everything that we talk about, intention is everything.
It's
Right?
everything.
Intention is just everything. And I know that I've been in, I've been in show, not in shows, but I've attended shows attended shows where people have had handmade jewelry or handmade pieces, and I could feel the difference in the intention. Like I could feel when I would touch it. Now, I understand that I sense energy in a different way than a lot of people. But the truth of the matter is, just because you don't sense it doesn't mean it doesn't affect you, right? And I could feel that the intention either was desperate because they were desperate to make money or they were just desperate to separate me from mine. You could feel that. And then if you picked up a piece that was made with lovely and beautiful and loving intention, it's an entirely different thing. So as you go through the process, is there an intention that you set for each layer? Is there an intention that you set? Like if somebody gives you a custom order, do you set an intention when you get the order and you look at the order and say, set the intention to build this in a way that is, I don't know, comfortable, my favorite words, comfortable and appropriate, and all of
Yes.
those things. How does that work for you, and how important do you feel that is?
Okay, well, I'm going to answer that last question first because I think it is the most important thing. I think
I
it
agree
is
with you.
number
Me too.
one. It's for me personally, it's the reason my pieces are out there. Is I want to create a better world for everybody, and so intention I think is number one. So yes, when I do, I'll start with this. When I do a custom order, my client is offered the option. I either pull from my crystal cards deck, so I'll connect to your energy, and I have a crystal cards deck that I use. That I take out the stones that I have in my shop at the moment, and I connect to my client's energy, and I pull the cards that are necessary for their piece. That is probably my favorite way to do it, because Angie, you know me, I love using my cards, and I create a bond with my cards, and these crystal cards are one of my favorites. So I love to do that. That's my favorite thing to do. Or I will ask you some questions. I will ask you, is there anything specific you would like? Any specific intentions? It's actually, I believe, on my custom orders on my Etsy is, do you have specific intentions? Because that's number one. That's why these pieces are created, right? I need to know what kind of energy you would like to have out of this. Or you can give me a scenario, or you can say, just connect to me. And I use methods that Angie taught me to connect to people remotely. And then I figure out what I need to put into their pieces. When I do a custom
That is an amazing way to connect to people, is it not?
It really, really, really is. It really is. With that, I'm a Reiki master teacher, but also a fourth level Amakua key healer. Thank you to Angie. So I put that energy, I put the symbols into the pieces. I put it into the epoxy as I'm stirring it. I hold a specific place for that specific piece. Now, if I'm doing a bunch of pieces like my pendulums, I will just hold, I work with only one stone at a time because I need to channel the energy of that specific stone. So for example, the moonstone, I'm working with that. I am channeling the moonstone's energy and I'm working with it into the piece because because what I want my pieces to do is I want them to amplify the not the products. Here's my words again. The intentions, the what the stones offer. Okay.
The intentions of the stones. You're not
Yeah.
the first person to say, "Where are my words?" on this show. I'm just going to say, "What is it?" So don't even worry about that.
And I'm just sitting
I
over here being
usually
really
at
quiet.
that point I make up my own words.
Well, I mean, that's so that's and John is new to the crystal world, right? So I think this is pretty.
I would say
Welcome.
that's the thing I know least about. So
Yes.
Okay.
So,
I have a question,
but
though.
which is okay. So, the thing of it is that I might be wrong, but I think I'm correct in that you're not 100% married to the descriptions of what crystals do that are written in the books. You are attached to the intention of the crystals
What
themselves.
they give me.
So she's channeling what. So that's what I do, right? That's how I connect to crystals. I have the books. Sometimes I use them as
Their references.
No, I hardly ever open them, to be honest
Barely.
with you.
Yeah. I'm very similar. I used them like for you, John, for when you're just learning stuff. Like the Crystal Bible is phenomenal. That's how I learned all of my stuff. But then, and you'll find it. And as I'm sure everybody knows in this realm that we are in, as you hone those gifts and learn more about it, it comes to you more naturally. Your own your solar plexus tell you what it is.
Yeah.
Yes, you understand it. You create a bond. You create a relationship with them, and you understand them, and they give it to you.
Nice.
So here is. I mean, you can only imagine what's happening around me, right?
Angie's buzzing.
But
she's got a glow too.
Yeah, that happens. I think that it's important to, because this comes up when we have conversations about all kinds of things. This comes up, the idea of you create without fear. You understand the products that you have, the products that you use, the parts and pieces, the organic, the inorganic, and you're not afraid of any of them. Do you see where John? Do you see where I'm going based on other conversations we've had? So, do you have anything to add, like, or a question like that's related to that idea, the intention and whether or not you create out of fear? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, my question is very, very. It's related to this, in that, let's say someone has a specific need they want resolved, and I'll give you two examples. Number one, my favorite one is abundance. Like, I need something to help draw a little bit more abundance in my life. Or another example would be, I'm having a real problem with a particular individual in my life that's really causing me a lot of stress. Can you create something to help with that? What would your process be for either one or both of those? The intention, where do you go with that?
Okay, so
and it's not what we were talking about earlier, Norah. So just leave that thing out.
Yeah, no, I got you. The first one's a lot easier for me to answer. So the first one with abundance. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get you some aventurine. I'm going to get you some green jade, and I'm going to put some citrine in there. Okay, those stones are all, the citrine is the merchant stone. So that is at every one of my events, at Witch's Day, at everything, I put citrines over every entranceway. Okay, because it is the merchant stone. It brings in the abundance for myself and for all of my wonderful artists and psychics and readers and all of that. So that pulls in the abundance. Aventurine, here's a good kind of rule of thumb. Some people might come at me with this, but this is my rule of thumb. If it's green, it's money. It's money or it's love.
Here's your
It can be
jade.
used for both. Okay. It's green jade, emerald. Emerald is phenomenal for bringing in abundance as well. So green stones, think money, think cash flow. Yes, it's also, if you're thinking on the edge of chakras, it's the heart chakra.
Heart chakra, yep.
But without going too far into that, they can work hand to hand, and they actually kind of have to. Okay, you have to love the flow of it in order to create it, right?
You have to love the flow. You have to love what you do. You have to love what you create. You have to love who you help. You have to love,
right,
all of it, right?
They kind of go hand in hand.
Yep.
Second question. I am a practicing witch, so when it comes to creating pieces to get people to leave you alone, I would, if the client's comfortable with it, ask for a piece of something to put into it.
Oh,
to secure it into piece of something
Absolutely.
regarding the situation, regarding that person. No, I'm not asking you to go chop off their hair or something. I'm not asking you to do that, okay? But
Grab some
something
lint from
in
the sweater,
regards
right?
to that relationship, okay? The reason that you're having that problem with that person, okay? So again, it doesn't have to be a piece of their clothing. It doesn't have to be any of that stuff. It could be some, say, for example, it was a business venture and it didn't end very amicably. It could be the logo of that business, something along the lines of that situation, that scenario. So I would put it
actually
in there,
creating a spell right inside
and encasing it under the pressure. So it's pretty strong.
There you go.
Now I'm really intrigued.
Yeah, right? I figured you would be.
Yeah. The idea of like encasing the spell almost permanently.
Yes.
That's really innovative. That's something that no one else is doing. So
I don't think anybody else has. Now, some people after seeing this might go and try it, but I think it might be something I've not seen before, but
that's really amazing.
The world is pretty big.
I'm going to pull out one of my spell books and see what I can put together.
There you go. So in
really
that
cool.
scenario, obviously I would, do the whole process of casting a spell.
Right.
But encase it into the epoxy with, the whole Orgone process.
Right. Sweet. That's very interesting.
I figured you'd get them somewhere along the line.
Right.
Angie was not even expecting that one, I don't think.
No, because the epoxy that I'm working on is doing astrological symbols, but not just the main one, but your sun sign and rising sign as well.
Oh, fun!
Putting them all in one pendant for a necklace. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of going down the same lines as you are, but in a different tangent.
So that would be okay. We still have a couple minutes. So you've got the sun, the rising, whatever it is, the sun, the
right?
moon,
Sun sign, rising sign, the moon sign. Yep.
Yeah, Libra, Aquarius, and Aries. Okay, so you put that all in. Now, if you were to also encase that, add those symbols with the Orgone, the signs are a representation of the person.
Yeah.
Right? So now, what would adding the Orgone layers add to that process?
So right away, it is absolutely going to connect them to themselves. Okay. So it's going to connect them stronger to those characteristics. It could even help them to heal aspects in those areas. I like that. I love that.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense because let me tell you why. There are aspects in those signs. I mean, I know that I recognize them now in myself. Mm-hmm. There are aspects in those signs that could be considered disagreeable, I suppose, in the regular world. A lot of the way I am is in my chart, literally. Like, cut them loose. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Like that, it's all there. I've got that straight from the mouth of our astrologer, Lisa. So the idea of being able to anchor somebody through that process, through what, John, you're creating, and then heal. In other words, if you bring awareness to those aspects, it can allow you to temper that energy as you move about in the world in a way that's easier, right? And order from chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And add to this quickly. Right. If you coordinate the stones with the signs, and you can find that in like the Crystal Bible, any of the books, you can find them. If you coordinate those stones with the signs until you get to where you will, when you're working with these stones, you will get to where you will have your own intuition with every piece that you pick up. But until then, you can go and look through like the Crystal Bible, any of these other places, and find the coordinating stones for those signs.
Nice.
And it will only make things better and easier and more understand. Oh my gosh, it's brilliant. I'm excited.
You and I got to talk, Norah.
Yes, absolutely. You've got something there. You've got something there.
All right.
Well, that's amazing. So I'm glad that we connected the two of you. Sadly, we are at the end of our time here already. Norah, please let us know when you've decided to record a class or workshop on how to create Orgonite. We'll just use that word really quickly. Whatever.
One time won't kill us.
and we'll help you get it out there. I think would be amazing. It would be a fun class to do. Whether we could do it live, that would be fun. But people are all over the world, so it's great to connect.
Well,
with
I am
everyone.
working on getting a brick and mortar. So once I do, I will
that'd
hold
be amazing.
classes.
Well, if you're looking for
there,
practitioners, maybe I'll consider it. Right.
Well, you weren't like my first choice or anything.
Maybe we can get John to come down and do tarot readings as a guest.
That would be awesome.
You come down for a weekend or something and hang out in the shops.
Guest spot. That would be very so incredible.
That would be very, very cool. Anyway, okay, so we've come to the end of the show. Again, we could go on for another hour, I am sure. Norah, thank you so much for joining us, and you'll come back, won't you? Me.
Absolutely. This was so much fun.
Cool.
And if you've made it this far, we're going to ask you one more time. Please reach down and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Don't forget to check the comments for the links. And help us get to 100 subscribers. I think once we get to 100, we'll be able to get further, a lot easier. Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much. John, it was great as always. Thank you, Norah, so much.
Yeah, and thank you, Norah. This is really, really interesting.
Thank you. Oh, it was so wonderful to meet you, John.
Yes.
Likewise.
You guys are going to get along famously. I'm just thrilled. All right, everyone. Well, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next episode for Tarot Time.